2024 is the 200th anniversary of the National Gallery. 1821, this house was donated to the nation by the family of the late John Julius Angerstein, and he was a collector of art. And in this house were 38 paintings, and so the government took it over and it became the National Gallery. It's on the corner of Pall Mall, and it's pretty much next door to where the National Gallery now stands, but this is where it began, and this was the interior of the house. So, it was saved on wallpaper, but you see it plastered up the walls with the... Anyway, these 38, so the National Gallery didn't come from any kind of royal collection or anything like that. It was donated to the nation, and the government took it over. 1838 it opened, sorry, 1838. So that's how it looked then. There was no Nelson's Column or Lions or anything. This was Trafalgar Square came later, but that was the extent of the building. Neoclassical style, pretty big as well. So they must have collected quite a few more paintings by this time. That's how it looks today, as you're all familiar with it, with Sir Martin Fields in the background. So anyway, we proceeded into this Constable exhibition. Then here we have Mr. Constable, looking very wistful.
Yes, very young looking, isn't he? Of course.
He was born in 1776. And he died in 1837, so he was only 59 when he died. Came from a sort of fairly solid middle-class background, living in the Essex, Suffolk sort of area, around the River Stour. And I don't know, I was quite surprised that I actually... Oh, I'll tell you more about it. I mean, this was a sketch you did of a wagon, I suppose. And it's just brush strokes, actually. When you look closely up to it, but I think the whole idea of it is really quite smart. This is probably his most famous painting, the Hay Wain, which we've all seen a million times on biscuit tins and postcards and tea towels and God knows what else, to the point where it's become over familiar, I think. And when I went in, it's the first thing that strikes you in this exhibition, and I was just absolutely bowled over by it, because it's, apart from anything else, its size. It's 6 foot square, which I didn't really expect. I expected something much smaller, and it comes alive as you look at it. It shows you that familiarity just breeds contempt, but when you actually see the original thing, it's just a stunning piece of work, and you can look at it for hours and see all kinds of different aspects and things about it. The water is amazing, the kind of little figures, the car, the house, and of course he was very big on clouds, which tend to take your focus as well. So I was pleasantly surprised. I thought, oh God, Constable, we've seen it all, heard it all before, but not at all. However, at the time, didn't think much of him in the English kind of critical faculty. They rather dismissed him as a I don't know what, an amateur, I think. But in Paris, King Charles X was rather impressed by the Hay Wain, and he awarded Mr. Constable with this gold medal from the Paris Salon in 1824. But then, to show he wasn't just a one-trick pony, this is the Ascension, painted by Constable in 1824 or something like that, which I think is quite powerful. And as I said, he was pretty big on clouds and
wow,
abstracts. I think particularly like this one, you know, we get some flat plane and a kind of sun breaking through the clouds. Now, this is the kind of thing that was more common in those days. Anybody guess who painted this? Okay. Well, it's Gainsborough, and it's Gainsborough. Perhaps we expect to see portraits, but this is his idea of the countryside, which is very kind of romanticized and formal and all the rest of it. And this is Stubbs. Stubbs was famous for painting what? Horses, yeah. There is one here in the thing. But this is very stilted. People in a long line of well-dressed peasants. There's another famous constable, Flatford Mill. And this is another of his, what he called his six-footers.
Wow.
Enormous paintings. You almost walk into them. You kind of, and the thing that struck me about this one was the water. It's almost flowing. You know, it's Turner. He was a bit of a pig as a human being, but a great painter. But he was almost exact contemporary of Constable, and he was contemptuous of Constable's work. Turner's representation of the countryside, which is somewhat different, I think. We're all familiar with Turner's work, but although they were both Royal Academicians at the same time, they were never friends. They both demand millions now, but anyway, Turner was probably, at the time, in his lifetime, the most successful. Constable wasn't terribly successful financially. He made a living, but he didn't. Turner made a lot of money, actually. Just of course, this is John Ruskin, the polymath of the 19th century, perhaps. You know, the Kenneth Tynan of his day, if you like. But again, a bit of a flawed human being. But anyway, he said Constable was rubbish, and Constable became a household name towards the end of the night. A national treasure, if you will. And this is a late 19th century railway poster. I love railway posters. I think they're fantastic.
That's lovely. That really is.
So encouraging you to travel to Constable's country, so you could go and see all the things that he painted. So, and of course, long after his death, his paintings began to sell for great amounts of money, and they're exhibited all over the world. Now then, so I left that exhibition. This is the Rokeby Venus by Velazquez, which was in the next gallery down. And I've just picked out one or two paintings that I liked while I was walking through. And then it struck me that, of course, in 1914, this lady, I love this headline. I think it's the Daily Mail. Suffragettes shot. £10,000 damage to the Rokeby Venus, seizure of the woman. And this is Mrs. Richardson, Mary Richardson, and she was protesting against the imprisonment of Mrs. Pankhurst.
At a girl. Oh dear.
And it was very badly damaged in several, five major goes before they managed to stop her. And ironically, quite recently, it's been damaged again.
Oh.
Just stop oil people. This is the Italian Renaissance artist Artemisia Gentileschi, who is having a rebirth at the moment. Lots of exhibitions, bit of work all over the place. But the National Gallery recently purchased this painting, and it's a self-portrait. Saint Catherine of Alexandria. This is a self-portrait by Artemisia, and despite the fact that women artists were generally speaking not considered, she was the exception, and she was very, very successful, and she made a lot of money. And she was very much influenced by this gentleman, Caravaggio. Yeah, I love this painting. I love the detail in it as well, even down to the rip in this guy's sleeve. on in the green jacket.
Yeah.
This is the suffragette in Mayus, isn't it? Kind of conversion of St. Paul. But the only thing that I find that jars against me is the chicken's legs. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of like I don't know about it, but I came across this Klimt, which
Mm.
struck me because it's not exactly monochrome, but it's just it's not covered in gold and glitter and
Yeah. More silvery.
yeah. And I liked it. That was all. And it's probably, I don't know, 8 feet tall, the painting, so it's very striking. You know, it really takes your eye. Impressionists, he's Pizarro, and this is the Boulevard Montmartre in Paris, and he painted several versions of this. Now, this is the one that's owned by the National Gallery, and it's just the feeling of lights and carriages and movement. It's not very good representation of it here. It's much more effective in the flesh, but
Toulouse-Lautrec.
yes, Toulouse-Lautrec.
Renoir.
And it's pastel. It's called Two Friends, and I don't know. It tells a whole story here. I think you can, imagine all sorts of things going on. And he did a lot of his paintings of the women, the girls in these brothels. And so there's something very tender about this. I don't know, kind of. As I went to see ostensibly to see the Van Gogh exhibition, I managed to find a Van Gogh in the little gallery that wasn't in the exhibition. And I think this is a snow scene in Avignon, or what else I can't remember. Which I think is beautiful. And I think even though there's nothing much in the middle of the painting, it's all white, I think he's managed to create an amazing image here. It's quite big. It's not as big, it's not 6-footer, but it's big enough to create a massive impression. And how much time we got?
This was after you'd come out, Graham, was it? So you
Yeah. In 1940, the National Gallery took a direct hit, and so part of it was seen off by the Luftwaffe. But it remained open. But in 1939, after Chamberlain came back from Munich, most of the valuable paintings were removed to Penrhyn Castle in North Wales. Penrhyn was built by a family who owned the land around about. What they discovered was Welsh slate, and they made millions and millions out of it. Welsh slate was exported all around the world. It was a scene of one of the very first major strikes in industrial strikes at the turn of the last century, where they cut the wages of the quarriers and quarrymen and all the rest of it. And the strike went on forever, and they brought in blackleg. They brought in a lot of blackleg workmen, and there was a lot of bad feeling, and and it still felt today, I think, actually. But so it was one of the first substantial trade union strikes. The unbombed part of the gallery, where the pictures have been taken away mostly, during the war, they staged lunchtime concerts to boost morale. The doyen of all this was Dame Myra Hess. This is the Sainsbury's wing, which is tacked onto the side of the gallery now, where they show major exhibitions and charge a fortune for you to go in. This is where the Van Gogh exhibition is at the moment, donated by the Sainsbury's family, and is pretty much on the site of that house I showed you right at the beginning, on the corner of Pall Mall. So, and that, ladies and germs, is where it ends. So,
Thank you, Graham. That's great.